Hi, welcome to HeKate's Crossing. Now, I know that you guys in the Northern Hemisphere are moving towards fall or autumn, depending on where you are, of course, to what you call it, into autumn, and yet us down in the Southern Hemisphere are actually moving towards spring. Now, we've talked about Halloween type decks, yes, but it's actually quite conflicting being here in New Zealand. Now, if I'm reading for a New Zealand client, I'm not going to be thinking about autumn type tarot and oracle decks. I'm thinking more about sort of spring. Now, that's been a little bit difficult for me. I have sort of thought about a selection of decks. I mean, I've got more, I suppose, that I could use for spring, but here's some that I thought about. Definitely the Herb Crafters Tarot for me is very much of a sort of a spring plant type energy. It just feels, even though there may be some cards that may speak of other seasons, this to me is a very spring deck for me. So that to me is, yeah, I think that would be my number one tarot deck. Let's have a look at tarot to begin with before I start looking at some of the oracle decks. Definitely another tarot deck for me would be the Starman Tarot. It's bright, it's got a lot of colour in it. To me, this is a very spring coloured deck. So yeah, I think this for me is very spring, very bright, maybe even working towards summer. Yeah, I think this is quite a sort of a bright coloured tarot deck. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. The other one, of course, would be the New Zealand Animal, the New Zealand Naturally Tarot. This to me is a very spring type deck. Just I think the imagery, I mean, I know there's some sort of wintry type image in some of the cards. They may feel a bit more autumn or summer, or autumn and that, but a bit of that there. But I just think this overall is a very spring type deck for me. So there we've got a couple there. I even think the Romantic Tarot has a sense of spring when I think about a romance being sort of new and fresh and exciting. I think this is also very new and beginning, so to me that's a very definitely a very spring type tarot deck. Remember, this is only a very small example of decks available. Okay, so when I think about spring as an oracle decks, let me just shift those to one side. Okay, oracle decks, definitely Justine's from Hand Me That Pencil, her Songs of My Heart is definitely a spring type deck. Definitely with the green in the background, the imagery of New Zealand with the woman. I know this is a very feminine deck. It's just beautiful in regards to very empowering type deck when it comes to like imagery of plants and scenery. It's just beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous in the way it sort of comes together imagery wise for spring. Okay, so I think New Zealand decks really do speak volumes. I think these would be really good to work with. Is the New Zealand Fairy Oracle, the Fairy Oracle of the Putupariri, I think this is beautiful in regards to spring. Again, it's got that beautiful foresty feel to it. It's very natural, very organic feeling. It's just beautiful, a lot about growth and development, and it's just gorgeous. And I think this is a very spring deck. Okay, so another one in the New Zealand is the Maori Oracle. Now this is available on Book Depository as well. I know it's available. Comes with a gorgeous book, which is the only way to really use this deck. It's just gorgeous. The imagery, again, you've got the green, so you've got that real spring type energy, the plants that show the animals that come through, the aspects of the Maori with the puar and plants, of course, flags, the fish hook with the bone and the wood, all those sort of come into play, the ko, sticking stick, so all those are beautiful. The kumara, the ko, the papaka, the crab, kiwi bird, of course, the taniwha, which is the water spirit, of course, Maori, the meri, this is made out of greenstone or jade or panamu, as we call it in New Zealand, panamu. So that's there, the rainbow. So it's just beautiful. The herus, which is like a hair comb. So yeah, I think this is a very spring type deck. Okay, other decks I think would be anything that sort of was quite fairy, or sometimes some of the Celtic decks could be very, or you know, the silver witchcraft was one I was sort of thinking of, which could have been classed as a sort of a spring type deck. And here we have the Fairy Forest by Lucy Cavendish and the artist Maxine Gadd. I think this is a very sort of definitely a very spring type deck, even though this sort of has a autumny feel to some of it. I think overall to me it just gives me that real sort of spring fresh feel to it. So I think this is a beautiful deck. And I think anything with plants, or anything with plants, fairies, animals, can be very spring-like in its energy in many ways. So and not all, I'm just saying in some cases. So I think that sort of explains a little bit about, you know, you guys in the Northern Hemisphere are moving into the fall and harvest and all that sort of stuff, while we're coming into that spring. So we're talking about growth and development in a different way, and I think that's just something to sort of think about as we look at our decks, so our tarot and oracle decks, and maybe even Lenormand, Kipper, some of those other decks that you might be working with. Like for me, the Pagan Lenormand, I think gives me a sort of a spring type feel to it, with growth and development in some way. So anyway, so that's it from me. Don't forget to check the links down below, check the links on my channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. So that's something I just wanted to share with you today. Take care. Blessed be.